Levels of depression in the Australian community are at epidemic levels. Why, when we live in such a relatively safe, healthy and prosperous nation? Could it be that our privileged lifestyle is doing us harm? And if so, what can we do about it?
This is Signs of the Times Radio with Kent Kingston.
I'm here with Dr. Darren Morton, who's a lecturer in lifestyle medicine at Avondale College here in New South Wales. Thanks for being with us, Darren.
It is a pleasure. Great to be with you.
Excellent. Now, Darren, we're here because you've written this great article in this month's, the June, Signs of the Times magazine, The Healing Power of Green Time. Actually, I should take a step back. You wrote it, but then you put it in a book, and then I took it and adapted it and put it in the magazine. So thanks for letting us do that.
You are welcome. Couldn't have written it better myself.
So thanks heaps for that. So this book that you've written that we took that extract from is called Live More Happy.
Yes.
Well, that's bad grammar to start off with.
Yeah. It's remarkable how many people, there's meant to be a bit of a pause there. So it's Live More Happy.
Okay.
And but look, the byline is scientifically proven ways to lift your mood and your life. And I have a great interest in that space. Look, we live in the lucky country here in Australia, and yet we know that 1 in 10 Australian adults are taking an antidepressant each day.
Yeah, it's an epidemic.
It's an epidemic. It's doubled in the past decade. And so we really have this challenge where so many people are struggling with their emotional health and just not experiencing the kind of emotional vitality that they would like. In fact, the studies seem to indicate that probably about 20%, so that's only 1 in 5 people, indicate that they're truly flourishing in life.
Wow.
So if we have, sort of 20% at the top end of the spectrum are doing, quite well, there's probably another 20% at the bottom that are really struggling. And what it means is there is probably 60%, maybe even 70% of people who are somewhere in the middle who, look, wouldn't say that they're down, but they're not necessarily up either.
I'm interested, you used the word flourishing. What does flourishing mean? Like, how would you define that?
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, what we historically we've spoken about being happy. And in fact, my book has the word happy on the front of it. I was a little bit anxious about putting that there, believe it or not, which is odd because, everyone wants to be happy. And Frank once penned, she said, we all would live with a pursuit to be happy. Our lives are all different and yet the same.
Yeah, well, they say happiness depends on what happens, but perhaps what we're after is something a little deeper, something a little more enduring that will keep us having a positive attitude, sort of regardless of the ups and downs of life.
That's correct. And so, look, happiness for many people has a bit of a fluffy, sort of light, lack of substance connotation, and the type of happy I'm talking about is not that.
Okay.
It's this idea of having a positive emotion, certainly. So having a sense of peace and a sense of joy, a sense of excitement even, but also then a deep sense of satisfaction in life.
Okay.
And within the scientific literature, and there's one discipline of science referred to as positive psychology.
Okay, yeah.
And they've taken a great interest in this space. And they talk about happiness and happiness science, but the word that they like to use to denote that bigger construct is flourishing.
Flourishing. Okay. Oh, that is really interesting. So, for those of us who aren't sort of readers or are too cheap to get the book, can I know you're just undercutting yourself here, but
that's right.
But can you give us a summary of what some of the points are in your book that help us live a happier or more flourishing life?
Yeah, sure. So personally, I come from the lifestyle medicine world, and I've been immersed in that space for many years.
Which means
now.
what?
Yeah,
what's
so lifestyle medicine, to me, it's the future of healthcare. It's a very exciting space, and lifestyle medicine is about treating the cause of many of the chronic physical conditions that many people suffer from today.
Okay, so diabetes, stroke, heart disease.
Yes, all of those ailments. Now,
and overweight sort of is linked with a lot of those things.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, so we have look, if we want to speak candidly, we don't have a healthcare system in Australia. We primarily have a disease care system.
Wow. Yeah.
So, people get unwell and then we do stuff to try and help them manage that. What we know are that chronic conditions, such as the things we've just cited, are actually lifestyle related primarily.
Yeah.
For example, we know that, the studies are very clear on this, that, probably 90% of type 2 diabetes is preventable.
Yeah. And that's a key word, isn't it? Preventable.
Preventable.
When we're looking at lifestyle diseases, that means if we live differently,
yes,
our health outcomes would also be different.
Very different. And, we look at heart attacks. Probably 8 out of 10 heart attacks are preventable. If people were to make, more positive, healthy lifestyle choices, which is a challenge. But, what's very exciting is that we now know that when people who even have things like type 2 diabetes and heart conditions, when they adopt positive lifestyle behaviours, we can actually see them that they can be very helpful for the management and even reversal. Which is to me a tremendously exciting space.
We've seen that with smoking too, haven't we?
Yes.
Smoking is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the number one cause of lifestyle-related deaths around the world. And if someone is to stop smoking, their risk, 5 or 10 years after stopping smoking is pretty much exactly the same as someone who's never smoked.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. And what it shows is the human body has this incredible capacity, to care for itself if given the right resources.
Yeah.
And so that's what lifestyle medicine is about. Lifestyle medicine is about helping people to, eat better, to move better, to manage stress better, to sleep better, to rest better. And in doing that, it can be very therapeutic for treating the cause of these chronic conditions. So I've been immersed in that world for many years now. I'm a fellow of the Australasian Society of Lifestyle Medicine and a certified diplomat of the International Board of Lifestyle Medicine.
Wow, okay.
But what excites me is that lifestyle medicine, what we're discovering is what's good for your body is also tremendously good for your brain.
Okay.
And
can I just stop you there just briefly before you go on? So you're talking about lifestyle medicine. You had a bit of a dig at the so-called healthcare system in passing. Some of our listeners might be thinking, is this some sort of hippy-dippy naturopath sort of stuff? Are you down on medication? Are you down on hospitals? Or do you see them as having a role?
No, very much. Clearly, modern medicine is marvellous. My wife would not be alive unless it had been for medical intervention for, when she delivered our first child, as an example.
Yeah, okay.
So, look, we have to celebrate this. Modern medicine is fantastic, but what modern medicine tends to do is apply the same paradigm to all of our conditions. And when we look at chronic conditions, these are lifestyle related. It's lifestyle. We know that diabetes has increased, for example, 900% in the past 30 years. What's changed? Well, it's our lifestyle that's changed.
Yeah, okay. So you're not saying to a diabetic, stop taking your insulin
not at all.
And just go for a jog and eat some pumpkin seeds and you'll be right.
Absolutely not.
You're talking about a holistic approach that does involve medication, where it's needed, but hopefully you can reduce your need for that medication if you put some lifestyle changes into place.
We need to create this caveat very clearly that people need to maintain and stay in the care of their healthcare provider. But look, within we look at medical journals now that relate to chronic disease, there's this increasing call, recognising that, hey, what we're doing, we're actually putting Band-Aids on conditions.
Yep.
We need to look back further, look upstream to what's the root cause of these things.
Yep.
And it's lifestyle. And
comes
so
back
let's
to that
treat
word,
that
preventable.
cause.
Preventable,
yeah. So look, and lifestyle medicine is an evidence-based science. It's an evidence-based discipline that only works on the basis of peer-reviewed publications that that show and support the efficacy of these things.
And I understand it in your book, which we'll get back to, Darren.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've taken you on a bit of a circuitous off-ramp here.
Yeah.
But in your book, you actually write about some of your research. You're actually one of these researchers who's contributing to this body of knowledge.
Yes.
What has your research particularly focused on, and how does that contribute to the larger picture?
Yeah, well, I'm part of the Lifestyle Research Centre at Avondale College of Higher Education, and so we have a lot of different research projects going on, and I have several PhD students working on projects in this space. In terms of the lifestyle medicine world and how it relates to chronic disease management and treatment, I have a particular interest in a program that's called the Complete Health Improvement Program.
Okay.
Or CHIP for short.
Yeah.
So CHIP, the name's a little bit misleading. People go, yes, I'll go on the CHIP program.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean eating
get to
deep
eat
fried
chips.
potato.
Oh, okay.
And so, look, CHIP, I was actually involved in the development of this CHIP program, which is a lifestyle intervention where people learn and then experience these lifestyle changes and are supported in that approach.
Yeah,
CHIP,
we actually just finished having one of these at our church. So
Right.
I think for a series of several weeks, few nights a week, we had a group of people from our community coming into our church hall,
Yes.
like learning this health information. They also saw like healthy food being prepared. I think they also have health checks, don't they, to check their blood pressure and
That's
their weight,
correct.
like before and during and after the program to see what improvements.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's sort of hands-on, it's practical, and people see incredible results.
Well, it's incredible. So CHIP, I was one of the to develop the CHIP program, and I'm one of the presenters in that program, which it now operates in 10 countries around the world. So it's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yep.
And look, we've seen over 10,000 people. We've got data on over 10,000 CHIP participants worldwide, and it's incredible. We see people completely, lowering their cholesterol levels into normal ranges, blood pressures coming down to normal ranges, losing weight.
People are the doctors are saying you can go off your blood pressure medication,
That's correct.
aren't they?
That's correct. It's powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And and CHIP, and in fact, it's even available online now, the CHIP program, Complete Health Improvement Program. So, look, that's the lifestyle medicine world. And historically, I've been, most of my research is focused on these physical health conditions or ill health conditions,
Right.
to put it better. But, for me, the end game is really to help people to live their best life. And that's always been the case for me. And so, why did I want to help people, to treat and reverse their diabetes potentially? It's because I want them to empower them to feel better.
To flourish.
And so it was a very natural progression as we started to see that when people adopt these healthy lifestyle behaviours that help their body, it also helps their brain. And people report so characteristically that they feel better. And so, look, I think for me it was a natural progression when I started to see, hey, the lifestyle medicine world has a lot to contribute to this epidemic of low mood and low mental health. And then coupled with another flourishing discipline, to use that word again, that is positive psychology. Positive psychology is not pop psychology.
Yeah.
Once again, this is solid science.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the scientific study of what it takes for people to flourish in life.
Yeah, because for so long, psychologists and psychiatrists have focused on mental illness and ill health. But there was it Martin Seligman
That's correct.
a few decades ago
Yes.
said, hey, why are we looking at all the negatives and
Yes.
all the pathologies and what makes people sick all the time?
Yes.
Why don't we focus on the positive and see what makes people well, what makes people happy, what works when it comes to
Exactly.
psychology?
Yeah, that's...
And so you've followed through in that school of thought within psychology, and you've put that together with the lifestyle medicine stuff in this book, Live More Happy.
Yeah, that's correct. And so essentially then what I've done is brought together all of the evidence-based strategies from lifestyle medicine, from positive psychology that we know help people feel better. And what's incredible is that many of them are very efficacious. I mean, as effective as, for example, antidepressant medication for improving mood. And many of them happen almost instantaneously.
Wow.
So this is really exciting.
It's funny you say that because I remember a day several years back when I'd been feeling quite low for a couple of weeks. And this day it was a Sunday, nothing to do, feeling really down.
Yeah.
Thought, I got to get out of here, go for a ride on my bike. So I got the push bike out, rode down a gravel road, stopped, wandered into the bush. There was a little creek and a little waterfall there. This is far north Queensland, so you find this all over the place. Went for a swim in the creek there. And when I got out of that creek, I just could not believe how my mood had just pretty much instantaneously changed and improved.
Yes.
I just put a stop to that, that negative spiral that I was in.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe how simple it was. And
Yes.
is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
And look, you've touched on a couple of the strategies that I mentioned in the book. So actually, I should make this one caveat. I talk about live more happy. I'm not pretending that everyone can be happy 24/7, right? Because look, the truth is that our mental health, our emotional vitality does ebb and flow, and obviously if you've had some tragic circumstance which has just occurred, then that will influence your.
It's
your
natural to feel sad at that point, and in fact you should. You need to express that sadness or that grief. Yeah,
as wise King Solomon once said, there is a time for everything. There is a time to weep, and there is a time to cry. But there is a time to laugh. And I believe though that most of us, most of the time, can be experiencing more emotional vitality. And there's great reasons for that, for doing that. We know that people that have more emotional vitality live longer. We know that how you feel affects how you heal. So they're healthier, they're more productive. Pretty much the quality of their life is better because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your emotions.
Yeah.
And so look, I'm in the book. I spell out a whole heap of strategies. So maybe we can touch on.
So we're back there now. So take us through some of those strategies.
Look, things like motion creates emotion. That's the title of one of the chapters. These
are catchy, people. Note these down. Okay.
Yeah.
So motion creates emotion.
That's correct.
Yep.
We know that distributed throughout your body are millions of tiny little sensors, little nerve endings, referred to as proprioceptors. And these proprioceptors tell your brain where your body parts are in relation to each other and how they're moving. And they go directly to your emotional brain. And so this is why how you move and even how you posture yourself affects the way that you feel.
Yep.
Motion creates emotion.
Yeah.
You mentioned your story of getting out and going for a ride on your bike, and that's incredibly true. We know that just moving for less than 10 minutes will lift your mood. And so, look, I've moved away from talking about exercise nowadays because whilst exercise is fantastic and I love exercise and I do it every day myself, I know for many people it equals pain and sweat and they don't want to go near it. But so the message is, okay, well, you don't have to exercise. Just move. Just move in any way you can. The more dynamically you can do it, then the more beneficial the messages to your emotional brain will be. So motion creates emotion.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. I guess the opposing side of that, and I'm interested in your perspective on this, is they say the posture that we use when we slouch at our desk or on our couch over a laptop or something is actually pretty close to a fetal position that we would be adopting if we were severely depressed and lying in the corner of the room. So it's not surprising in some senses that sitting for a long time, sort of slouched and crouched over a screen,
perpetuates that emotion.
It leads you to feel miserable.
Yeah, and look, I talk about that in the book. I mentioned some studies by New Zealand researchers where they physically did that. They taped people into different postures, slumped postures, upright postures, and within about half an hour, these people are reporting changes in their mood states. It's very powerful. Wow. Motion creates emotion.
Okay, well, what else?
Blue and green should often be seen.
Okay, and this is where we took the excerpt for this month's Signs of the Times.
That's correct. And so, look, the science is overwhelming that we know that your emotional brain is very tuned in to sight, sounds and smells. And the type of sight, sounds and smells that it loves come from natural environments, blue and green spaces, particularly bright lit blue and green spaces.
Okay.
So outdoor, when the sun is shining, we know it's incredibly therapeutic for people. In fact, there are studies, once again, coming out of New Zealand, which show that when people live closer to blue and green spaces, when they have more access to that kind of an environment, depression and anxiety rates just plummet. Very powerful. Blue and green should often be seen.
Is that just because they're rich and they have a water view?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even seem to need to be the water view. It's even we know that just greenery, just trees around your house or in your house, are incredible. Very, very.
So seriously, I mean, if I am living in a high-rise apartment, in a city somewhere, how do I do that? How do I get that blue and green?
Look, access to parks, obviously, if at all able. The most important aspect of it is the bright light element. And what we know is that people need to be getting outside more than they are.
Okay. So sit on your balcony to have your breakfast.
That's correct.
Or try to walk to work through the park rather than...
Absolutely. Yeah. At least 30 minutes a day outside whilst the sun is shining. We know that your emotional brain needs that. In fact, we know that when people people live in areas in the world that have high latitude, where during winter months there's very low lighting for extended periods. Depression very high. There's actually a condition called seasonal affective disorder.
SAD.
SAD. That's correct.
Yeah. It's I can totally see that happening. Okay, so what else?
Well, other things like feelings follow your focus.
Feelings follow your focus. Okay, all right.
So what you give your attention to, what you focus on, we know has a profound effect on how people feel.
Okay.
And this is why it's so important. This is really coming out of the positive psychology world. The value of focusing on positive things in the past. So we're talking about gratitude here.
Yeah.
In the present, like what went well today, and then in the future. What are you excited about? What gives you hope? Do you have hope?
Yep.
We know that these are very important things to focus on for people to be emotionally vibrant. We're talking about the gratitude. There's actually an exercise that is used in positive psychology, and I've done this myself, called the gratitude visit, where, and perhaps this is a challenge, this is the homework for the listeners.
Yeah.
Think about someone who is alive today who's had a positive, significant impact on your life.
Yeah.
Right now, go away and write down a few paragraphs about that person and the difference they've made in your life. And then step 3, and here's the challenging part, go and read it to them.
Wow.
They find that when people do that, they'll report increased levels of happiness for up to 1 month after.
Wow. And if that person's no longer with you, passed away.
Yeah, well, obviously, ideally, you want to identify someone that is still around.
I mean, psychologists do this thing called empty chair therapy, where sometimes they say, okay, well, this person isn't here anymore, or you're not able to speak to them.
Yeah.
What would you say to them if they were here sitting in this chair? And the impact of being able to stand by somebody's grave and speak the words to them, or to the empty chair, or whatever, can actually, possibly have maybe not as much effect as speaking to the real person, but surely it'd be better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the reasons that an exercise like the gratitude visit performed to a real person is so uplifting is that we know that our emotional state is very much tied to how we affect other people's emotional states. So, for example, there's an ancient Quaker proverb that says, "I'll lift thee and you'll lift me and we'll ascend together." And I wonder whether the part of it's that, part of it's focusing on what you're grateful for. And that's really the exercise.
Wow.
But also sharing that and lifting someone else, I think, contributes to that as well. In terms of focusing on positive things, though, there's an excellent exercise that's commonly used in the positive psychology world called 3 good things. Or 3 blessings sometimes.
Yep.
And that is that at the end of each day, they get people to write down, focus, really give it their attention, and write down 3 things that went well that day and why they're excited, why they're thankful for that, why they're grateful for it.
Wow, okay.
People that do that report progressive increases in happiness for up to 6 months after.
There you go.
And so, there's once again this notion of feelings follow your focus, focusing on positive things. And
so if you, for example, were a person who was, exploring, Christian faith and wanting to integrate prayer into your life as a daily routine, this could be something that you could do as a part of your prayer, to come to the end of each day and, thank God for 3 blessings that you've identified out of that day.
I actually think that a core component of prayer, and this is why prayer is so powerful, is actually expressing thanks, expressing gratitude. It forces us to reflect on the things that have gone well and that we're grateful for. But the other element to that is that it's also it's focusing on a positive orientation regarding the future. That whole idea of having a sense of hope. And as has been stated, where there's hope, there's life. And we know that when people have that positive expectation, that positive orientation towards the future, that's very powerful for their emotional well-being.
Wow, I like that. Next point, what else are you covering in your book?
Oh, we've got things like together feels better. And
I was going to ask that. Yeah, is there a relational side to this? Is this what that's about?
Yes, that's correct. In fact, in the book, I talk a lot about the emotional brain in the book, which is called the limbic system. Because I'm an Aussie, I give it a nickname. I call it the limbo.
The limbo down.
But essentially, what we know is that our emotional brains seem to be connected to others, and in ways that we don't quite understand yet. And this is possibly due to, there are things in your brain called mirror neurons. So we actually know that, just like when you see someone yawn, you tend to yawn.
Yeah.
There seems to be this connection that we have with each other. And so it's not surprising that studies clearly indicate that the emotional well-being of the people that we associate with, we tend to assimilate to. And so, in fact, the science here is incredible. These are studies that have been published in things like the British Medical Journal. We actually find that happiness or unhappiness is socially contagious up to 3 degrees of separation.
Wow.
So what this means is if someone in a social network becomes, say, happier, then the friends of their friends have an increased chance of becoming happy too.
Goodness me.
Yeah. So
That
it's
is
quite
incredible.
remarkable that, the whole idea of together feels better. And certainly we know that when people have positive social relationships, it really does set them on a good platform for experiencing more emotional vitality. And so, what it means is that in the pursuit of living our best life, we really need to be prioritising our relationships.
Wow. Look, those are incredible points. And just listening to you, Darren, I know there are practical things there that I can put, into place in my life, just like right now, starting today. So that's awesome. If I wanted to read more detail and more of those points, I guess I'd need to get hold of your book. But the happy news is, dear listener, that we are offering you a copy of this book this month. What you have to do, though, we'd like you to subscribe to Signs of the Times magazine, which is just $26 for an entire year's supply. That's 11 magazines. And if you're able to do that this month or before stocks run out, we will also send you a copy of Live More Happy, which Science Publishing Company has very kindly made available to us. So there you go, Darren. They've actually had to reprint it, I understand. It's been so popular, this book.
Yeah, it's actually it's gone very, very well, and there's been great interest, and we've had a lot of media attention, and it's just launched its second print run now.
So that's great. So if you are interested in getting hold of that book and subscribing to the magazine, visit our website, which is signsofthetimes.org.au. Or you could email us at info@signsofthetimes.org.au. Hey, thanks so much, Darren. I really appreciate your time. You're always a lively interview, and and you put that positivity. We can hear that in your voice. And so, thanks so much for being here and for sharing some of your research with us.
Thank you for having me.
Today's episode was based on an article appearing in this month's Signs of the Times magazine. A subscription is just $26 for 11 issues a year. To find out more, visit signsofthetimes.org.au. Signs of the Times has been published in Australia since 1886 and is proudly produced by Adventist Media.
This is an Adventist Media podcast.